Jack hadn't been back to his hometown for over 10 years. He left right after his divorce from his beloved wife, leaving behind not only his family, but all the memories associated with that place. Every street, every house here reminded him of Olivia, of the life he had lost due to his own foolishness. He had never imagined, even in his worst nightmares, that he would one day be without his Olivia. He loved her beyond reason, and life without her seemed unimaginable. But that love lived somewhere deep within his soul, rarely surfacing in everyday life. On the surface, everything looked completely different. Jack, as his close ones affectionately called him, had a volatile, explosive nature. He was a man of extremes, capable of being incredibly tender and caring, and in the next moment, coarse and reckless. He was fiercely loyal to his friends, ready to dive into any adventure without considering the consequences. Jack believed that once a woman became his wife, she would love him forever, forgiving any mistakes and shortcomings, like a mother who loved her wayward child no matter what he did. At first, Olivia indeed reacted to Jack's outbursts with angelic patience. Her love for her husband was so strong that it overshadowed all his flaws. She found an excuse for every one of his actions, every misstep, even when it went against her own interests and needs. If he came home drunk in the middle of the week, well, it was his friend's birthday. It was impossible not to celebrate. If he spent all his salary on some mysterious gadget for his hobby, nothing to worry about. He was a jack of all trades. Golden hands, as they say. Could one forbid a loved one from doing something that brought him joy? There was enough money for living. These were temporary difficulties. They would definitely overcome them. If he didn't come home to sleep, well, sometimes you miscalculate with drinking. Not congratulating her on a holiday, forgetting a significant date, no big deal. It wasn't the most important thing in life. The main thing was that he loved her. In short, Olivia always found an excuse for Jack's actions, even at her own expense, because she loved him. Then Kostya was born. The world was divided into before and after. Olivia matured immediately, while Jack remained the same kid he had always been. All the care for their son fell on his wife's shoulders. She managed well, but she stopped playing by Jack's rules. If you messed up and couldn't explain yourself, then there was nothing to talk about. The silence stretched for weeks. Olivia thought that if she didn't talk to Jack, he would understand everything faster, apologize, and never do it again. But it had exactly the opposite effect. Jack remained in his own world, began raising his voice at Olivia. One day, he slapped her just because when he came home from work and asked her to feed him, she, having already held their son in her arms for a full day, tiredly replied, "The food is in the fridge. Heat it up yourself." That day, Jack seemed possessed. Hearing his wife's words, he flew into a rage. "I see you're tired of staying home. Put him down and serve my lunch, or I won't be responsible for myself." Olivia looked at her husband with open contempt and said nothing. She went to another room, where Jack roughly turned her around and hit her in the face. The blow was weak, almost formal, but at that moment, Jack and Olivia's family life collapsed forever. The man, with a palm burning from the unacceptable touch, stormed out of the apartment, shouting, "I'll teach you to respect your husband." Olivia, who had never been hit since birth, silently took out her bags and started packing, realizing she could never forgive her husband. Jack, after running around, cooled off and realized he had messed up again, and went home to make amends. He was sure that Olivia would forgive him once again, because she loved him and couldn't live without him. And who would want her with a child in her arms? Look at how noisy he turned out to be. When Jack entered the apartment, a deathly silence greeted him. Finally, the little screamer had fallen silent, Jack thought. So Olivia would be more conciliatory. The images of traditional reconciliation, after which Olivia would become sweet and forgiving for a few days, flashed through his mind. Jack wandered around the apartment in confusion, not immediately realizing what had happened. When he understood, he was furious. "Oh, is that so? Well, we'll see. You'll beg me for mercy." But Olivia did not show up the next day or the week after. Jack was beside himself, genuinely scared. What if she had left for good? He thought, and immediately answered himself. No, it can't be. She loves me." A week later, Jack went to Olivia's parents, confident that he would find her there. And so he did. Olivia herself answered the door. "Come in," she said calmly. I'm here to get you. Jack decided to take the bull by the horns. Get us? Don't be foolish, Olivia. Let's go home. I'm sorry, but you know how I am. I flare up like a match. You're not blameless either. You could have avoided adding fuel to the fire. We are not going. But we can't live without each other. What are you talking about? I can. And I can't, Jack shouted in despair. You only think that, Jack. I'm never coming back. I've already filed for divorce. Divorce? Are you out of your mind? Over such a trifle? Too bad you still don't understand. It's not a trifle. I'm not going to live with someone who doesn't respect or love me. And it turns out, who hits me too? But I love you, Jack yelled so loudly that Olivia's father came out into the hallway. What's going on here? What's with the shouting, Jack? No one is waiting for you here anymore. Don't interfere when I'm talking to my wife. Jack's eyes flashed with anger. Ex-wife, dear. Ex-wife. Now I, as her father, will protect her myself. Leave, Jack. Not seeing any way out, Jack ran outside. Old fool, he fumed, getting into things that don't concern him. We'll see who gets the better of this. Until the divorce, Jack tried to convince Olivia to withdraw the application. He came every day, begged, even cried, but Olivia, once the kind and gentle girl, had turned into a stone block. She looked at him with empty eyes that held no compassion, no pity, no love. After the divorce, Jack moved far away from the city so he wouldn't see them. His heart was torn apart by grief, love, and hopelessness. For over a year, Jack didn't look at other women. Then he tried to start a new life a few times, but nothing worked. Jack couldn't forget Olivia, couldn't erase her from his mind. His first wife refused to leave his life, haunting his dreams like a ghost. And now, this business trip. Jack both wanted and didn't want to go. Deep down, he hoped to see Olivia and feared it at the same time. Driving past the house where his ex-wife's parents lived, Jack slammed on the brakes. At the bus stop stood Olivia, holding the hand of a boy about 12 years old. That's their son! How he has grown! Beside a small, curly girl in the man's arms, Olivia was carefully adjusting a scarf around his neck. It seemed that the whole surrounding world revolved around this quartet, maintaining their family harmony. Jack watched them for about 10 minutes until the right bus arrived. Only then did he realize that Olivia had left his life forever. My dearest, be happy, Jack whispered. I will never forget you, and I'm sorry for everything. Tears streamed down his face continuously. After the incident, Jack wandered around the streets, trying to make sense of everything. The city seemed so foreign, and yet every corner whispered memories of the life he once had. He walked aimlessly, lost in his thoughts, replaying every moment with Olivia in his mind, trying to understand where he had gone wrong. Eventually, he found himself at a small cafe where he and Olivia used to spend their weekends. The place hadn't changed much. It still had the same cozy atmosphere, the same soft music playing in the background. He ordered a coffee and sat down, staring out the window, watching the people pass by. It was here, in this cafe, that he had proposed to Olivia. He remembered her face lighting up with joy, her eyes sparkling with love. How had they come to this point? How had he let the love of his life slip through his fingers? As he sipped his coffee, memories flooded back. Happy moments, sad moments, every little thing that had made their relationship unique. He remembered the first time they met, how awkward and shy he had been. He remembered their first kiss, their first fight, and the countless nights they had spent talking about their dreams and future. But those dreams had shattered, and now he was left with nothing but regrets and a broken heart. He had to accept that Olivia was gone, that she had moved on and built a new life without him. And yet, the thought of her with another man, raising their children, living the life he had once dreamed of, was unbearable. Jack finished his coffee and left the cafe, feeling a little lighter, but still burdened by his past. He decided to visit his old friend, Sergei, who had always been there for him through thick and thin. Sergei welcomed him with open arms, offering him a place to stay and a shoulder to lean on. Life has a way of surprising us, Sergei said, pouring them both a glass of whiskey. You never know what's around the corner. Maybe this trip back home is a sign that you need to close this chapter and start a new one. Jack nodded, taking a sip of the whiskey. It's just hard, you know? Letting go of someone you love, someone who is your whole world. I know, buddy, Sergei said, patting him on the back. But sometimes, letting go is the only way to move forward. You need to forgive yourself and accept that some things are out of your control. They talked for hours, reminiscing about the old days, sharing stories and laughter. For the first time in a long time, Jack felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe Sergei was right. Maybe it was time to let go and start anew. As the evening drew to a close, Jack left Sergei's place and wandered back through the city streets. The memories, the regrets, they all swirled around him like a storm. When he passed by the bus stop again, where he had seen Olivia with their children, he couldn't help but stop. Jack stood there, his heart aching. He watched other families pass by, children holding their parents' hands, laughing and chatting. He felt a pang of regret so intense it almost brought him to his knees. His mind replayed the moment he had seen Olivia and their son with another man. His son, hugging a father who wasn't him. That man was living the life Jack had thrown away. Tears welled up in Jack's eyes, and he let them fall freely. He had failed Olivia. He had failed his son. He should have been the one to cherish them, to protect them, to love them unconditionally. Instead, he had let his temper, his pride, destroy everything he held dear. Jack sat down on a bench, burying his face in his hands. He wept for the life he had lost, for the love he had taken for granted. His sobs were quiet, but they carried the weight of years of regret and sorrow. He wished he could turn back time, to be a better husband, a better father. He wished he had understood what was truly important before it was too late. A gentle hand touched his shoulder, startling him. He looked up to see an elderly woman, her face kind and understanding. "Are you all right, son?" she asked softly. "No," Jack whispered, his voice breaking. "I'm not all right. I've lost everything that mattered." The woman sat down beside him. "Sometimes we don't realize the value of what we have until it's gone," she said. "But life gives us lessons, and we must learn from them, even if it's painful." Jack nodded, wiping his tears. "I loved her so much," he said, his voice trembling. "And I ruined everything. I see her now, happy with someone else, and it breaks my heart. She has found her peace, and you must find yours," the woman said gently. "It's never too late to seek forgiveness, to make amends with yourself and with those you've wronged." Jack took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. "Thank you," he said, his voice still shaky. "I needed to hear that." As the woman walked away, Jack sat for a while longer, gathering his thoughts. He realized that he needed to let go of the past, to forgive himself for his mistakes. He needed to honor Olivia's memory by being a better person, even if it meant doing it alone. Before leaving the city, Jack wrote a letter to Olivia. He poured his heart out, apologizing for all the pain he had caused, expressing his regret and his enduring love for her. He didn't know if she would ever read it, but he needed to put his feelings into words, to let them out. In his letter, he wrote, "I see now what I failed to see then. I should have made you happy, cherished you, and been the man you deserved. I am deeply sorry for all the pain I caused you and our son. I hope you find all the happiness in the world. You deserve nothing less." With a heavy heart but a clearer mind, Jack posted the letter and walked away from the mailbox, feeling a sense of closure. He knew he couldn't change the past, but he could learn from it and strive to be a better man in the future. Jack left the city with a renewed sense of purpose. He would carry the lessons of his past with him, using them to guide his future. He would never forget Olivia or the love they once shared, but he would honor her by becoming the man she would have wanted him to be. As he drove away, the sun set behind him, casting a warm glow over the city that had once been his home. Jack felt a bittersweet mix of sorrow and hope. He couldn't undo his mistakes, but he could ensure they weren't in vain. He could carry Olivia's memory with him, letting it light the way to a better tomorrow. And so, with a heart still aching but slowly healing, Jack embarked on a new journey, determined to make the most of the second chance life had given him. That's how the story ends, friends. Join the conversation below and express your thoughts on this novel. If you found it captivating, share the link with your friends. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you never miss a new story that will make your heart race. Your support inspires us to create more tales. All the best to you. Take care and see you next time.